But he's saying the GSP of today would just destroy the GSP of 3 years ago. Bullshit. How does he even know that? How does he know that? Because he hasn't been testing himself. He's been sitting out. He's been on the sidelines. He's been working out in the gym. I know that for a fact. He's been keeping his hand on it. He's been sharpening his skill set. And good for him. God bless him. But until you're in a real environment, the gym doesn't mean shit. The gym doesn't mean anything. So that is a false statement. He's got nothing to back that up. It isn't tried and tested. It isn't proven. It's all bullshit. It's all theory. You know, it's a different thing underneath the spotlight. So for him to say that is kind of surprising. But the Michael Bisping that's here today would have, of course, destroyed the Michael Bisping from 2006. That goes without saying.
And we could also, it's not even just a theory, whereas George is kind of saying like, oh, in theory, I can destroy the George from 3 years ago. You can literally look at tape because you've been active and just been fighting for the past 11 years, and you get to look at the improvement and just kind of look at the two different guys. Kind of an interesting thing. I did put a Twitter poll out just because I always go to the fans. I like to keep the fans invested. So I said, who's going to win the fight, George St. Pierre or Michael Bisping? And out of all the votes I got, 54% says Michael Bisping, 43% says George St. Pierre, 3% say it's going to be a draw. So you're favored, but you are not favored by the Vegas odds, which is kind of crazy to me. Slight underdog.
Yeah, no, I'm always I'm very, very rarely the favorite at the bookies. I don't know why that is, and it's the same reason why GSP thinks he can beat me. For some reason, I don't seem to get the credit I deserve. I think throughout my fighting history, I've only been the favorite, a handful of times, and I've had, a lot of fights. But yeah, it's nice to know that some people think I'll win. I certainly feel like I'll win. I certainly think that George really is, he's kind of in a tough position. He's been away for a long time. It'll be close to 4 years when the fight happens. And for him, the psychological effects of that. I've been fighting the best guys in the world consistently. He's been away. He's coming back. It's a big spotlight. There's a lot of pressure there. Of course, there's pressure on me as well. But as I say, I've been used to that. I've been maintaining that pressure. So George is he's coming back, and how's he going to deal with that? Well, I'll tell you how he's going to deal with it. He'll deal with that a lot better than most people would, because he's George St. Pierre, because he's been there a lot of times before. But still, there's still going to be those psychological demons. And there's a reason why he stepped away from the sport. There's a reason why. And maybe he wasn't enjoying it too much. I don't think George is a real fighter. I think he's an athlete. He's an athlete and he's a martial artist. I don't think he's a fighter. And that's why he stepped away from the sport.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think is more important, being a strong athlete and martial artist, or being a fighter?
No, you got to. Well, you need a combination of it all.
Yeah.
Of course, not having any martial arts or athletic ability, but having the heart of a fighter is only going to get you so far, because you just get smashed. But if you got to combine those things, you got to be athletic, of course. You got to have the technique of a martial arts, but you got to have that willpower and that heart of a fighter and a champion. And of course, he's got that to a certain degree, but there's a reason why he stepped away. He's saying because of steroids. I'm stepping away because of steroids until they bring another testing. Well, unfortunately, that was the only platform that we have. I knew that. I knew people were taking steroids, but quitting was never an option, and joining them was never an option, while still continue to fight. So I think there is an element of truth to what Dana White said. He said he doesn't think his heart's in it. But I don't think it was. That's why he stepped away. And now he's bored. He wants the limelight again. He wants the attention. He wants to be around the circus. And of course, there's a payday there as well. And again, he's looking at me, and he thinks he's going to walk in off his big hiatus, be the middleweight champ, make history, and look like a god. Well, unfortunately, that ain't going to happen.
But I do think it's a fair comparison. The same thing, I think, if you were going to say that about George St. Pierre, you're going to say it about John Jones, that they are athletes and that they are martial artists and they are obviously very good at what they do, but they might be lacking that fighter spirit or that fighter's heart. I would throw Ronda in that category. You know what it is? A lot of these guys, this is kind of funny. I've seen them all get punched in the face a couple times and really look like they don't like it. I don't think anybody likes being punched in the face, but there's certain guys who just kind of eat it, and it doesn't look like that affects them. And there's certain guys, when they get hit, you're like, oh, wow, that really affected them.
100%. And that's exactly, Lewis, exactly what I'm referring to when I speak about George St. Pierre. He doesn't enjoy that. And, of course, as you just said, nobody enjoys getting punched in the face. But there's a part of me that fucking loves that. I love getting down and dirty and just, having a good tear up and a good scrap. And when you're in there, you don't really feel the pain unless you get knocked out or you get kicked in the leg. Those leg kicks, those body kicks, they hurt like hell. But punches in the face, as long as you don't get knocked out, I can take them all day. And I'm not trying to be like, trying to say I'm such a tough guy, because I'm not the only one. There's many of us like that. The UFC's full of them. George isn't one of those. He's a tactician. And that's all well and good as well. But as I'm saying, as you said, you highlighted a few names there. When you see them, you see that look in their eye when they get hit with a good one. They don't want to return fire straight away, or it diminishes their soul a little bit, and they start looking for a way out, or they just want to clinch and things like that. So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's very, very simple. What do I need to do to cement my legacy? The answer is very, very simple, and this goes out to all those haters out there that are talking on the internet right now. I'm saying it myself. To cement my legacy, I have to fight the number one contender. I know this. I'm well aware of this. Fighting Dan Henderson is great. Fighting GSP is great, but I've got to fight and beat the number one contender, whether it's Yoel, Jacare, or whoever it will be when the dust has settled in 6 months' time. So that's the first question, the answer to that. And what was the second question?
He said, is there a chance that you would retire, win or lose after this fight?
No, there's not. If I win, I want to fight the number one contender. I do. 100%, that's what I want to do. And for myself, I'm not a pussy. I'm not trying to avoid hard fights. I've had hard fights my entire career, and I don't want that. I even though I know that won't be my legacy, I don't want to give there a possibility of that being my legacy, avoiding the number one contender. So after, if I beat JSP, I definitely want to fight the top guy. And if I lose, I'm sure as hell not having my last fight after such a great career, having my last fight being a loss. So if I lose, I'm for sure. But I'll tell you this, when I beat George, and then I'll fight Yoel or Jacare, whichever one it is, and if I win that, there's a possibility that could be my last fight, because it's getting close. My wife doesn't want me to fight much longer. I've done this for a long time. I have got injuries. I'm covered in scars, and I can't do it forever. I don't want to do it forever. And certainly now with GSP, with this being a big payday, this will enable me to retire a little bit sooner. But I'm still very much a fighter, and I still will continue. So GSP, Romero, maybe one more.
I want to be a part of the biggest fights possible, whether that's Yoel Romero, whether that's George St. Pierre, whether that's Jacare or Anderson Silva. I just want to be a part of the biggest fight possible and earn the most money. And that didn't go down too well with some people, and I really don't see why that offends anybody and pisses anybody off. So I am scheduled for knee surgery tomorrow. Dana offered me a couple of fights, and I was hoping that the treatment I was having on my knee would be successful. But I had some PRP where they spin the plasma in your blood, and they were hoping that would work. But I've got, what have I got now? I've got a torn meniscus. I've got loose bodies floating inside there. I've got like some small fractures in my bone. I've got a lot of stuff going on. So got to go under the knife tomorrow. So I'm not looking forward to that. The surgery so much doesn't bother me, but it's the afterwards. It's the leg swollen up 3 times its size and not being able to walk.
Well, how long do you think you're going to end up being out after the surgery? What are they telling you?
Yeah, it's going to be at least 4 weeks before I can train or light train.
That's not terrible though.
No, it's not. But still, I like to stay active. I like to do things. I've got things going on in my life.
Oh yeah, you got a couple movies to film, probably.
Sitting on my ass for 4 weeks doesn't sound attractive, but when I'm at home, that's all I do anyway. So who am I kidding? But yeah, so we'll get the surgery out of the way, and then
that's that.
And then that's that, and then we'll do a fight. And if it's Yoel Romero, then I'll whoop his ass.
Yeah,
if it's GSP, then I'll whoop his ass.
Well, here's the thing.
You know,
I think
and
if people really want to see the Yoel Romero fight, and look, I want to see the Yoel Romero fight. I want to see that eventually.
Sure.
You know, if that's what they want to see, you know, start creating some interest in it, because I think that's the problem, like in general, and I think that's kind of the point that you're making, is you're saying you want to have the biggest fight possible, and there's just not this like crazy, you know, huge interest from the
biggest fight possible on the biggest fight card possible.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be in a big event. I want to be in a big card. Is that too much to ask? I've been here forever doing this. You know, I mean, I love the UFC. They've treated me very well. I'm at the tail end of my career. I think everybody knows that. You know, it's not like I have a huge career ahead of me. I've got a huge career behind me.
Could you go out on a win like Tito?
Yeah, of course.
That's the plan.
I don't plan on. That is the plan. Two more wins and sayonara, buddy.
That's it. So
we'll see. We'll see.
But that is the plan right now. Let's say the ideal.
Plans change.
GSP, then Romero, beat Romero, retire.
And then done. Yes.
Peace.
That would be a perfect scenario.